slide. We'll go ahead and fire this up. Everybody stand up. We'll do a quick assessment we do in the clinic on a regular basis. This is an easy hack test to determine where we're starting out: strength, stability, neurocognitive coordination. So it's just a 60-second balance test. You pick your foot, whichever one you want, put it up front, get yourself some room, and then balance on that foot, and I'm going to time you and go. So all the literature will tell us if I can do this for 60 seconds, better than not odds I see 80 years old. Easy longevity assessment, right? If I can't, you're the first one in the room to die first, okay? So we call this in my clinic the who's going to die first test. Not absolutely, because you can train for this, you can get better at it. But as we approach the 20, 30-second mark here, you feel some fatigue in your foot, maybe it's coming up your calf. This is a combination of several factors: stability, strength, endurance. Don't die. Don't do it. Points for cowboy boots or heels or platforms, exactly. Definitely live longer.
What if I'm already 80? Am I dead?
Yeah. We'll get, you already made it past the threshold, so we'll get to you here in a second. So we're coming on the last 15 seconds. This is where the endurance aspect comes in, the coordination. It's absolutely techniques you can train for, but we use this as our initial assessment to see where our client is starting. Last 5 seconds. 3, 2, 1, relax. Go ahead and stand there for a second. Feel the difference side to side. It's like you did a workout with that dominant foot that you stood on, right? 80 years old is great. It's not enough for a lot of us. We want to live more than that. Why would we study longevity in the first place, right? So if you want to see 90, here's what you have to do. Same foot, balance on it. I'm not going to make you do full 60 seconds. Get set, close your eyes. Feel how much harder that is without your visual system. And relax, nobody fall over. So that, if you want to see 90, you got to be able to do that for 60 seconds, mostly so that you maintain cognitive function, not just strength and endurance. All right, everybody have a seat.
So why didn't we were able to do that?
What's that?
Why couldn't we stay stable?
It's usually a combination of many things: endurance, strength, cognitive coordination, all of which you have to train for and build as you age. So it's not just working out, it's not just fitness. So like Ed said, my name's Sam Ditzel. My wife Marcy and I run the longevity clinic here in Austin. We've got a smaller, more intimate group today, which is great. Thanks some of the girls for showing up, because so my women's health section doesn't fall flat. I don't know if you guys ran all the other girls off, but I know we had some late minute cancellations. Since we have a smaller group, I want to keep this as conversational as possible. If you have questions, if you have individual issues that you're concerned about, don't hesitate. Okay, we can get into each individual programming situation if we need to. Let's keep it casual. You guys let me know if something doesn't make sense. Feel free to throw up a hand and interrupt me at any time. Our main purpose with this clinic is to improve the outcome for our clients. So Marcy and I come at this from the exercise physiology and nutrition side. She obviously runs the women's health specialty of our practice. Yes, in the clinic, we have a lot of different modalities. We've got personal training and coaching, nutritional guidance, Pilates, massage, physical therapy, all the services you could want to improve somebody's outcome. But here's the caveat. I don't care what my client weighs. I don't care what they look like. I don't care anything about their human performance. I don't care how strong they are, how fast they are. None of that matters to me. The only thing that matters is what their long-term outcome is. I define it this way. Does my client have to give up the fun shit that he wants to do as he ages? That's all that matters. If I meet that goal over a 40-plus year time horizon, then I've got a win as a coach. Then we have plenty of runway to hack any marginal aesthetic change, muscle building, body fat change, but none of that matters if it compromises my long-term goal. So that's the key assessment. All my clients want to get better. They're all into bettering themselves, optimizing. Just like us being here at Vistage, we're here to get better. We want to be better leaders. We want to be better managers. We bring speakers in to help us do that. I guarantee you in the next year, we're going to hear at least 5 speakers on how to bring AI into our business to make it more efficient, to make us more money. Speakers on leadership, mentorship, management, managing personalities to put the right person in the right seat, right person on the bus, right person off the bus. I get it. I get the standard business tropes. It's all great. What I'm here to promise us all is that if you do not manage yourself, physically, mentally, spiritually, emotionally, it doesn't matter. Because what I see in my clients is they build enormous wealth, very successful, productive companies, but they can't participate in the life that they've created because they're sick, they're injured, they're in a hospital, they're stuck on the porch, and they're left out of their own life. So they can raise their kids and their grandkids to be worthless and spoiled, but they don't get to participate. That's what we're here to change. And this is why, because this is what we face as we age. This is data specific to females. We'll look at the guys here in a second. But the whole point is this: even if my client starts out at the top, this top blue line is the top 3% of fitness in the whole country for women. If she starts here, she still declines precipitously with age, especially after middle age. And this is what we all face. Like I said, the male data looks very similar. The bottom quartiles don't fare as well. People who start out unfit actually don't decline as fast as the people who are fit. Why? Usually because she gets incorrect coaching, or she's coaching herself. Maybe she doesn't get the hormonal support she needs at an early enough age. Whatever the reason, my job as coach is to prevent the slope of that line from getting any worse. The reason I like this graphic for people is so I can show my client just how long-term this commitment is. So that whether you do it with me or a better coach or on your own, this is a 40-plus year commitment. This is not a 6-week bikini boot camp to get ready for somebody's wedding. That's not what this is about. Or a crash diet to get ready for a kid's wedding or a graduation ceremony. All that does is age you faster. So the majority of techniques we see in nutrition and in training actually make people worse in the long run. My job as coach is to keep her above that red line of death. So that's the minimum VO2 max, the minimum aerobic capacity she has to maintain so that she doesn't have to give up everything fun by the time she's in middle age and she doesn't get to do it anymore. So like I said, the male data looks very similar. He still declines really quickly after middle age, even if he's in the top fittest 3%. And in my practice, based on the popularity of this industry now, these guys that are older in their mid-50s are coming in usually with a litany of injuries behind them. Why? Because they've trained inappropriately this entire time. What do my guys do? They're in their mid-40s to mid-60s. They're in this danger zone. Their bodies change. They want to do this guy's workout to get this guy's figure back, and they crack themselves open trying to do it. And the data, honestly, in our clinic, we don't see this even flat tail taper off. The reason this tapers off is because these guys are already dead, most of them in this study. They're not around to give data. It's not pretty. What we see at 73, 74 is the cliff. That's my job. Everybody under the top 3% of the population hits that cliff by 73, 74 years old. That's the one event, the one surgery, the one injury, the one fall, the one loss, the one massive hospitalization that you just don't come back from. So you survive it, most likely. We have pills and surgeries to keep you alive, but the guy on the outside of 74 is not the same guy as on the inside. And we see it over and over again in the clinic. So my big goal today is to differentiate for all of us between what in this world of longevity and wellness that has a lot of sex appeal and is very Instagrammable and all over social media, that costs a lot of money, takes a lot of time, and does nothing to move the needle for your benefit, for your outcome, to compare that to what actually works. So time-honored, time-tested daily habits that don't cost any money and don't take any time, and they're accessible and approachable by all of us. This world has become sexy and expensive because it's about how much can I spend, how good can I look doing it, and how extreme is my training or my nutrition protocol or my sleep hacking to live a long time, and all it does is end up aging me faster. Biohacking is the top of the sex appeal pyramid, right? This is the stuff that's worth taking a picture of or putting on Instagram. It's way more attractive. I have a lot of clients who enjoy their cold plunge pool. This is a great tool. We got lots of cool data on this. If you have anxiety, depression, mood disorder, this is a great way to stabilize your nervous system, to calm your body down. If I've got an extreme type A driven business exec and she suffers from chronic anxiety, I can put her in a cold shower or dunk her in the pool at the right temperature, and immediately her depression is better. Is it going to make her life better? Probably. Is it going to make her live 40 extra years? Probably not. The good news is we'll be fighting over this and researching it for the next 40 years to determine who's right. But I can promise you that regardless of which extreme temperature you expose your body to, there's no secret sauce in activating certain sirtuin genes, boosting genetic activity to make you live as long as a laboratory animal. It's just not going to happen. But these can be great combinations on the margin, especially my peri and postmenopausal female crowd. When they get in a hot infrared sauna, they do so much better than my men do. They can detox, they can balance hormones, they can increase circulation and lymphatic drainage. My wife has an infrared sauna. She loves it. I hate it. So if I'm going to sweat, I got to be outside, moving around. Sitting in a box, closing in around me as I'm drenched in sweat is not my thing. She loves it because it makes her feel so much better, But she doesn't do this in place of her exercise program. It's just ancillary on top of it. She's already worked out. She gets in there for better hormone balance, and I go run around outside. On top of that, we got the wide black web of supplementation. So I've never seen a client in my practice who's seeing a functional medicine practitioner who's not already taken 40 or 50 supplements a day. And you get on social media and it's a new recommendation every week. I'm not anti-supplement. If somebody has a deficiency, if he doesn't methylate, if he's depressed, if he needs B12, if he doesn't get to get in the sun because he works in a place like this and he needs vitamin D, fine. But no matter what you stuff into your face or inject into your veins, none of that nutrition and nutrients is going to take the place of a well-balanced diet. That's the key. So if you need to do this on the margin to get the extra 2%, fine. For convenience, because you're busy all day, I get it. And we manage that for our clients all the time, but it's not going to take the place of nutrition, especially if you don't eat enough, period. Here's the key on fasting. This works for two populations in the entire world. And heads up, they're both men. So we drive our female clients away from this as much as possible because women do terrible on this diet plan, especially when they combine it with semaglutide and GLP-1 therapy. So these drugs, Ozempic, Wegovy, these are game changers for a lot of people. People have been overweight their whole life. They're diabetic. These drugs are not for my West Austin housewife that needs to lose 8 pounds before her daughter's wedding. That's not what these drugs are designed for. But they can change the game for people who need them, offering a short-term fix to a medium and long-term problem. So even we've stopped trying to get clients to avoid these drugs because the lure of that weight loss is just too strong. The problem is the majority of the weight loss that people experience on these drugs with the fasting, because they just don't have an appetite, comes from their muscle mass and from their bone density. And that's weight they can never get back, especially if they're female. That's the biggest risk. So we try to get people off of this plan as soon as possible, put them on a plan that they can manage medium and long term that's actually far healthier. The next hot trend is the weight vest, right? You see perfectly healthy people running all over your neighborhood wearing a weight vest. These are extremely key for the treatment of osteopenia and osteoporosis in very, very skinny petite women. And in the 90s, when women would come to the clinic, we would always give the high osteoporosis risk women a weight vest to wear because it stimulates bone density. And I lay down more bone. The prescription is you take 5 to 10 extra pounds and you wear it 5 to 10 minutes a couple of days a week. Now you see women, perfectly healthy, young women with adequate bone density, running in a 30-pound weight vest, doing CrossFit, doing burpees, and they're trading an orthopedic back or shoulder injury for trying to make stronger bones. So that's what we try to push people away from. But it's hot on social media, so a lot of people are doing it. You can do whatever the hell this is. This is a biohacking clinic out in West Austin, hyperbaric therapy. You can sit in the box, stuff hyper-concentrated oxygen in your mouth while you watch Netflix or check email. Dude, I don't care if my client wants to do this. They got the money, they got the time, fine. But if he pings me and said, hey, man, I know you programmed a 20-minute bike ride for me, but I couldn't get to it because I was in the box watching Netflix, yeah, I'm going to have a problem with that. I may have to charge extra for it. And we all definitely have fallen risk and prey to the quick allure of biohacking. This is me wearing my wife's red light therapy mask, trying to make my skin look as good as hers. I hate to tell you that the results of that study were pretty grim. But I've got way cool data on that. If you've got rosacea, if you have acne, if you have a wound that needs to heal, red, purple, blue, spectrum light does amazing things for skin health and skin integrity, healing of sun damage. Is it going to make somebody live longer? Absolutely not. And if no matter how much red light you put on your face, if you haven't fed your body the right nutrients, your skin's still going to look terrible. That's not going to fix it. So this is an ancillary treatment. This is where the game changed in 2020 for my entire industry. So Peter Attia's book came out. He took all the things that we were doing in wellness and longevity and functional fitness, wrapped them up into this catch-all term of just longevity, and slapped a big fat MD behind it to give it credibility. So now we got a guy in the medical industry telling us it's okay for us to demand more from our physicians so that they will take a long game approach and do preventative care rather than just give us pills and supplements and surgeries and whatever has the highest billing code. That was the big shift. But what we saw in my clinic was so many people had read this book, which is lacking when it comes to women's health, but they'd read this book. They have a lot more questions than they started with. because you finish his book, it's very dense. It reads like a textbook. Anybody read this? It's pretty dense. So for dorks like me in the exercise phys industry, it's a lot of fun. But most people are coming in thinking, man, I got 3 hours of crap I got to do a day. I got a lot of supplements to take. I got a lot of pills to take. I'm worried about 400 blood markers that I never knew existed. What do I do? And that's where we come in and we develop a plan for them that uses these tools and works with their own physician to maximize the outcome. Because you want to be his client, his retainer starts at $1 million a year. He works with Chris Hemsworth, celebrities like that, right? His basic Outlive program, now his 10 Squared program in Austin, 75 grand a year, right? So it's not accessible to most people. But he does a great job organizing the 4 pillars of athletic prowess that we need to maintain as we age, some of which we tested in that initial assessment. The first one being strength. The number one thing I can do as a coach is keep my client strong. With caveats, right? I can't train them like that. I'll blow their tissue up before they even get started. So I can't injure them with the goal of holistic long-term strength in mind. And it doesn't do any good for someone to be strong if they're not stable. So this is really the key synergistic combination that I strive for. It allows you to do things like a single leg squat, a single leg balance test, not fall, not get injured, not get sick. I also need my client to do these types of activities over and over and over again, so they need endurance. Nobody signifies that more than that guy, regardless of what you think of him personally. So those 3 pillars are key, and then I got to add one more. I need my client to have speed. I need them to approach the pace of life and be able to compete with it. So they got to have power and speed. Not like 200-meter acceleration, like Gabby Thomas, right? Winning the 200-meter race, another local Austin athlete. That's not what I'm looking for. I can't train for that. People will break down. But if somebody's going to fall, falls happen very quick. If they start to slip and fall and they have to catch themselves, I need them to have strength, endurance, and power to keep from getting hurt. But let's say you wanted to go in one of these high-end clinics and you wanted to you pay your 75 grand, you want to get your assessment. I think there's a Vistage guy, John Asher's got a clinic in Dallas. I think he's in the $40,000 to $60,000 range. At any rate, they're crazy expensive. And the majority of the assessments that you need, like the one we just did here for free, you can get on your own, and you don't need this type of advanced care. But you would get several biometric analyses if you went to one of these clinics. The first is grip strength. We'll test that. So any of my 90s cats here, remember that movie. What I will do in the clinic, super easy, not an expensive tool, this ergometer, grip ergometer. You basically squeeze it as hard as you can. It gives you, if it turns on, it gives you a readout based on age. The key is I need my men to be over 100. I need my women to be over 70. This is something you can hack for and you can train for and get a higher number. I want to know where they start. So this is a great way to assess them up front without doing a lot of chemical analysis, blood work, or expensive interventions. See if they've been doing any strength work or genetically where they stand, especially if they're over 60, and then have something to evaluate 3 months from now. So when you're done with this, just hit start, and it'll zero out again, hand it to the person next to you. Everybody wants to know how they stack up against Ed and Clint anyway, so go for it. We'll see how we do. Anybody have any questions up to this point while we play here? There you go. Hit start, zero out, pass it over.
Is that VO2 that you said determines that, or like when you look at like athletic?
VO2 is how we determine endurance usually. That gets a little technical. So we do some heart rate assessments or some step-up assessments. We don't do a VO2 max with most of our people because it's expensive and there's a bigger intervention, right? So, did you break it?
No. I got over 100 though. That's all.
As long as you're over 100. So the key to assess a younger person, a younger client, is say, hey, if you're not over 100, if you're under 45 and you're male and you're not over 100, something's wrong. If you're under 30 and you're female and you're not over 70, something's wrong. You've got a neurological deficiency, you've got a bulging disc. If I see a client that I test really, really cheaply in the clinic and they're 100 on one side and 40 on the other, something's happening. And I need to refer out to neurology. I need to talk to their doctor. They've either had an injury, a whiplash, a car accident they never recovered from. How'd you do?
81.
Attaboy, there you go. There you go. Stick to your age and you're good. Yeah, be careful. Don't ruin your golf game.
He's going 200.
Yeah, 200 kg. There you go. Attaboy.
Whoa.
And again, you could walk around with a squeezer and hack that and get a better score. I would rather just use that every 3 months or at least every year in my exam with a client to make sure he or she is maintaining the numbers that we're building in the studio. The next test that you will see done mostly on social media and with athletes is this concept of a VO2 max test. This is the gold standard to determine how fit you are. Basically, how does your fitness level compare to Lance Armstrong's? Because he's in the high 80s for VO2. Guess what? I'll save you $300 and 22 minutes of your time. You're not as fit as Lance. I'm not as fit as Lance. So this number doesn't really matter. You got to get on a treadmill, stick a tube in your mouth. Anybody had a VO2 test? Run for like 18 to 22 minutes. It's not a fun test. Run till you pass out, somebody behind you catches you, and then you find out how fit or unfit you actually are. So now that this has gotten hot, a lot of the medical practitioners or longevity specialists will have you do this because, I mean, it just looks sexy. It's technical. It's got a lot of gear. There's a big readout. You get a 40-page report. You can do the same thing, running for 20 minutes, checking your heart rate, stepping up and down in a box for 3 minutes, checking your heart rate. So we assess this very differently at our clinic. If I have a client whose VO2 is too low, she can't get up and down off the ground 4 or 5 times, she can't pedal for 15 minutes on the bike, I don't need to humiliate her with a test. I know where we need to work, okay?
It's the same thing as an FTP.
Same thing. Yep, exactly. So you get mired in data at some point. I got a lot of tech bros I work with that love their data, so we'll do it anyway just to prove to them how much they need our services. But otherwise, it's more data than you actually need. Anybody had a DEXA scan? All my girls over 45 will get this to pre-diagnose osteopenia, osteoporosis. But now we know it's the gold standard for muscle mass and body fat, so my guys are doing it too. And it's more accessible. You can go down to UT and get a scan with a full analysis. They've got body spec bands that drive all over town and you get scanned in. So it's cool that this is available and provides the gold standard of where my body fat is, where my muscle mass is over time. I don't really do this with any patients on an annual basis, but I might do it as an initial assessment. Or most people, if they've read Atia's book, they're coming in with this data. They just don't know how to interpret it. And they don't know, hey, should I lose 2 pounds of muscle mass every 10 years or can I keep it below 1? If people are doing GLP-1 or Ozempic therapy, they got to have one of these before they start, hands down, because I need to know how bad the damage they do is so we can try to bring them back from it after they're off therapy. So to save radiation for people, or if they want to analyze data more frequently, we just have them get a Hume scale. We don't have any affiliation professionally with them. They just have a great technology, easy app to read on your phone. You can coordinate. Like I have the app on my phone so I can view all my clients' data. Some of these cats want to measure their results every day. I try to push them to every week. But this way we can track it very accurately. Closest technology I've seen to the actual DEXA scan and zero radiation.
Is that just does the electrical current?
It's bioelectric impedance. You stand on it, hold the paddles, gives you your assessment. It's real quick. It's easy. It's low intervention. These scales are probably, that test is probably $200-300. Body spec, if you do more of them, you can get it cheaper. This scale is probably $250 and you can test as much as you want. So next we test stability. We do the exact same single leg balance test that we all did in here. And then we do a get up test, which you don't have room in here to do, but we'll do a variation of it. It has nothing to do with boxing. I just like that picture. So you're basically on the ground in that supine position on your back. You have to get up from that position. I time you. You got to do it in less than 3 seconds. If you can get up from that position on the ground without hanging on to anything in less than 3 seconds, you got a better than not chance of getting over 75. And that's across the literature. You can use your hands.
My wife's always like, you're not going to live very long. You can't get up without your hands.
Yeah, hands get you to 75. That's not very long, right? Richard Simmons was dead at 75. So that may not be our consideration relatively of longevity. We want more than that. So if you want to live into your 90s, you do have to be able to get up from there without using your hands. That's the key, which everybody in the rest of the world, especially in India and Asia, can do. Nobody in America over the age of 75 can do that. So we'll do a variation of this. I've got obnoxiously non-ergonomic chairs in my clinic for that very reason. These are chairs that when old guys come in and they think their bench press and their deadlift and their football in high school prepared them for aging, and I sit them in that chair and then they scramble and can't get out of it, it gets some buy-in because they realize they got a lot of stuff to work on. So nobody lower or raise your chair, right? You're on the honor system here. So just move to the middle or edge of your chair. Get yourself some space. This one's way too high. That's cheating. Drop it. Let me use the lower one. You just made it harder for yourself, Ed. So here's the goal. You want to get in that position. You can pitch forward a little bit, arms up overhead, and without touching anything, the least lean you can forward, the longer you're going to live, right? And we can analyze that with your hip angle. We won't get into that here. Staying as straight as you can, stand up, using your butt, right? Everybody's going to make it to at least 75. Ed, you're good, all right? So sit back down. You want to make it to 90. Pick whichever foot you want. One foot, pick the other foot off the ground. Hands up overhead. Reach high, bro. Make it count. And then stand up and stick it.
Get out of here.
Okay.
All right? If you can do that, you got better than odds of seeing 90. And here's the key. It's just an initial assessment to let you know where you stand. You can easily, in 90 days, fix that and be able to train for it. All right, have a seat. So if you go to one of these clinics, you'll do a whole litany of blood work. These are the functional med docs, these longevity specialists that have you, when they fill out a blood work order, it's like going to a functional med doc, right? You go to the, if anybody's seen that, you go to the blood draw place and they have to draw like 12 ampules of blood instead of just one. That's because they test for 200 to 400 different markers. So Mark Hyman is in town. He runs his clinic function here. He'll test for 240, 50 different markers. Atia's clinic tests for like 400. This has become the superlative contest. How many blood markers can I test for? How much can I test for that the other guy doesn't test for? No one knows what they all mean. And there's no intervention, most of them being genetic, other than medication that we can do to change any of them. So it really doesn't matter. So this is the easiest way to get paralysis by analysis. So we look at blood work and talk to doctors about blood work all the time, but we mainly send people in this direction because this can tell us a whole lot more data. Again, it's a lot of information. And this is the genetic component here that these clinics will charge thousands of dollars for. We'll show you in a second, you can get it done much more inexpensively than that. This gives us the most information, and it starts with our food and our food sensitivity. So people will learn, most of this people know. Do I digest dairy well? Am I a gluten fan or not? How much processed food can I eat before I get sick? Tidbit here, nobody takes a food sensitivity test and realizes that they don't eat enough dairy, or they don't eat enough processed food, or they're not drinking enough, okay? So no one finds that out. But if you have a weird allergy to corn or avocado or banana that you didn't know about, that's giving you migraines or keeping you up at night, this is an easy intervention that I can make as a coach to shift someone's way of eating, not making them into a draconian monk, but just taking something inflammatory out of their body to make them feel better, especially when it comes to processing of caffeine. This is a big deal because this changes as we age, especially for my female clients. So the more my hormones start to get out of whack as I age, the less likely I am to be able to process caffeine if I was able to do it when I'm young. My number one complaint from my perimenopausal girls, I can't sleep. So before I ever approach HRT or talk to her endocrinologist, if I manage her caffeine intake and some of her food, I can get her a lot more rest and recovery. And I can do it with my guys too. So these are easy, low-cost interventions before we get into the what am I going to die of assessment, right? The big four horsemen: cancer, Alzheimer's, cardiovascular disease, and obviously metabolic syndrome, diabetes. You don't need a genetic test for diabetes. If you've got high glucose, you know it from your blood work. This is what provides us the biggest focus. So I stress out in my life, my exercise, my nutrition, what am I trying to prevent? The genetic test allows me to know exactly where to target. But this is a very personality-specific assessment. So if I've got a guy who's high-strung, worried about everything, I'm not going to have him take this test because it's going to freak him out. It's going to paralyze him. But if somebody is motivated and sees that they're at risk of prostate cancer or ovarian cancer, that might be the intervention or the kick in the butt they needed to actually make a change. So perfect example, all of my genetic assessments fall here. So my number one risk as I age is cardiovascular disease. I don't have a high cholesterol number, but the cholesterol I have is very, very sticky. So if anything's going to happen to me, it's going to be a heart attack or a stroke. Okay, well, I plan on working out as much as I can the rest of my life. I plan on eating well. This is where I'm going to direct my attention. My wife is clear here and here, thankfully, but she has both Alzheimer's mutations, both E4s here. So she is as genetically predisposed to get dementia as you can possibly be because she has it from both sides of her parents and it runs in her family. So she will focus here. And here's the key. The prescription doesn't change, right? You exercise, you eat well, you stay emotionally healthy, you manage stress, but it helps us to know if we want further testing where we need to direct our focus. So we don't do any genetic testing, even though it's a huge moneymaker for these clinics. We just send clients here. No business affiliation with that company. It's just they have the most consolidated, concise, easy to understand report that we've found. You go there for $299. It's basically like 23andMe, the new 2.0 version. You do the cotton swab, you mail it in. Within 3 weeks, you get a full report that you can then take to your doctor, take to your coach, and go over and see where you need to direct your focus. But it tells you cool things, not just what you're going to die of or what your risks are, but hey, do you process which vitamins? Do you have a deficiency in certain amino acids? How can I manipulate your nutrition to optimize you if that's what you're interested in? But you can see the tendency if we overgather information is to overdo to try to prevent it. That's what overdoing looks like. So that's my back when I was 14 years old. I had a genetic condition where you have a lot of instability down in your lower lumbar. One of your lumbar starts to slide forward. You get a really gnarly fracture back here. Crazy painful, very debilitating to a skinny 14-year-old crazy active kid. So started high school in a back brace. After I had back surgery, they had to go and infuse this. Really cramped my social life in high school like I needed any help. But this was a big deal. It kicked off for me this entire career, worrying about how to take care of my body, not just how to optimize it, but how to make it last. Because all of my physicians, my surgeons, my PT, everybody at this time, this is the early 90s, right? Nobody knew anything about recovering these injuries. Now physical therapy is so good, you don't even need surgery for this. You can help kids that have this issue. But we just didn't know anything back in the 90s. But this kicked me off down that path. I tend to be pretty hard-headed. I still overtrained. I still worked too hard. In my 30s, I ended up doing a lot of marathon running, training a lot of clients, doing the opposite of what I'm trying to teach you today. And I ended up with 2 small intestinal twists in my gut. The second one required 2 major surgeries. Luckily, I had a pretty significant support system with me through both of those injuries. But when I came back from the hospital and she told me, hey, I'm willing to support you through 2 surgeries, but if you go to the hospital again, you're going by yourself. So this was a huge change personally in the trajectory of my career and how I started training myself and therefore how I started coaching my clients.
In my defense, that was because he overtrains, not because I'm mean.
Right. But it was the kick in the ass that I need. When we got out of school in 2000, that was the image of wellness, health, and longevity. We didn't know any better. We had all been conditioned to train people for that. That does me no good to train my average client. But that's all that we were coached to do. The problem is from the 70s on, that model became this in the early 2000s. These athletes are incredible specimens that can do things that no one else can do, but the cost of this in your 20s and 30s is this in your mid-50s. So he's crippled now, multiple surgeries. This guy, Ronnie Coleman, that we all looked up to as weightlifters when we were in college, when we saw him get on stage a couple years ago to give his talk, this is what we came out with. I mean, it's terrifying. So it kind of really signified and clarified for us that there was a very different way to apply loads to our bodies and our clients' bodies to improve the outcome, because that's not longevity, right? The guy made a whole ton of money. He was the top in the world, but he's in his mid-50s and he's not going to make it very long. So this is the concept that we preach to our clients when they come in and they want to train or they're untrained. This is what I call the injury bow tie. So if I look at green, blue being good, and the orangey red being bad, this is where my clients fall usually on either end of the extreme. If they're training in the green sweet spot, they usually don't need our help, maybe just a little direction and advice. But whether my client is untrained and knowing they need to improve their outcome, or overtrained and doing CrossFit, Peloton classes, spin classes, Orange Theory, whatever they do that's sexy and fun that ends up beating up their body and aging them faster, they're aging just as fast as the people who do nothing. Because at both points on that scale, all I do is inflame my tissue. And all of those issues we looked at genetically, my cardiovascular disease, my cancer, my heart disease risk, my diabetes, they're all fed by this. They're all fed by inflammation in my tissue. So if by doing nothing or by doing all the wrong stuff, I just increase inflammation in my system, I'm going to give myself a worse outcome. I want my client there. And this scale may be very different for most clients. Pro athletes can train much harder before they break. I get it. Untrained people can't go that far without breaking. So we designate this for each individual client based on their intensity, their volume, how long they exercise, how many days a week they can do, what their time constraints are, etc. This is also a key point we go over with people. I had a physical therapy mentor way back in the day, 25 years ago, that would always talk about joint points. And his concept was that everybody is born with a certain number of points in each one of their joints. Let's say $100,000 worth of points in your back, in your hip, in your knee. You may use those at 50 a week or 5,000 a week, depending on, are you an extreme athlete? Do you eat well? Were you in a car accident? The concept for my clients becomes, how many of these do you have left? We have great ability to replace the majority of these. The knees are easy. The hips are a piece of cake. The wrist, shoulder, and ankle are a mess. People who have to replace those joints, they're chronically in PT for the rest of their lives. But going through life with enough inflammation to blow your knees and your hips out, like most of the clients we see too late, means there's a lot of other inflammation in your body. I can fix these joints, but I can't fix the cancer or the cardiovascular disease risk. So this becomes a big source of concentration for my clients when I ask them, hey, what do you love to do? How long do you love to do it? How do we manage it so you don't have to give it up? This is the best meme to signify what overtraining does. I haven't trained a single client for a major endurance event, triathlon, marathon, who doesn't just end up gaining weight in aggregate over the course of the year. They all lose weight when they start training, and then one of two things happens. They get hurt, so they have to stop training and they gain weight, or they develop such an appetite that when they scale back their training after their rest, they gain weight anyway. And they don't cross-train because they're spending so much time running or doing their cardio that they don't develop any strength or any neural coordination to actually balance their life going forward. Lifetime of cardio, that's what it looks like. Cardiovascular activity nonstop, not eating well. You're still dead at 76. Why? Because you fell in your own bathroom because you had no strength and no stability to balance yourself. Doped up on pain pills because you didn't take care of your body. If Ozzy lived to 76 and he didn't do a damn thing, it shows you how overrated cardiovascular activity really is. Because this is how stress stacks up in my system. All the literature will tell me I've got 60 hours of max stress per week. That's all stress. Good stress, bad stress, relationships, business, work, family. Most of my clients come into me, they're already working 50 plus hours a week. Then I add maybe family obligations to that. She's got a couple kids. They're playing 3 different sports in 4 different states every weekend. She's already at capacity by the time we start. Then maybe they want to have a social life, so they've got babysitters, nannies, logistics, and now they're stressed, they're not sleeping, so I'm adding to over threshold. So now when I talk to my client, they're already in the injury risk zone, and I have to add exercise to that. It's really hard as a coach to take that responsibility and add something to them that they're not going to end up getting injured from. The pros...
So you're calling all that stress?
It's all stress. It's good, it's bad, it's just stress, and it's cumulative.
So any activity, any engagement is stress?
Any engagement. Stress is the best thing for us and the worst thing for us. And we always preach that exercise is only controlled trauma to the body. I cannot get better physically, mentally, emotionally if I don't traumatize my body. I have to do that to adapt. I need stimulus. This is all stimulus, but anything over that line is overstimulating my body and breaking it down. So on a week when my client's crazy stressed, I can't give her the extreme training. Maybe she needs something different, and I have to adapt that sometimes day to day for her, depending on how stressed they are. If he's running companies in multi-states and he's traveling a lot, I've got to periodize a whole different program.
So somebody's working 90 hours a week, you wouldn't advise them to pick up exercise?
Depends on what type of exercise. It would look very different. Doing an Orange Theory or running would be the worst thing for them, right? Or anything like long volume, long zone 2 work on the bike or jogging is just going to break them apart. Yeah, be the worst thing to do.
What metrics determine what good stress versus bad stress is? Like, let's say if I'm stressing just because my kids are screaming in the middle of the grocery store, my heart rate goes up, versus if I'm working out and I'm running, my heart rate goes up. Like, what determines what is healthy stress versus bad stress?
To your neurological system, it's exactly the same. And that's the key. So if you cannot control the stress that your kids give you, which a lot of times we can't get rid of them, you can control the type of exercise you do, and that's the key. I need the exercise because if I exercise appropriately, that stress limit can actually go up. I can increase my capacity. But if I pound on my tissue, that number is going to come down. If I have adrenal fatigue, if I'm in perimenopause, if I don't have a high enough testosterone level in my mid-50s as a guy, this number comes down, and that's why everybody's so injured chronically.
So it's less, more, less.
When it comes to exercise, always. Less volume, less duration, and better efficiency is always better.
Less 5 minutes versus an hour and 20 minutes.
Yeah. So we'll get to it later, but if you are doing cardio for more than 8 minutes, you're completely doing it wrong. Unless you just love running or love biking, in which case that's something you do for fun. That is not training. It's exercise and it's fun. It doesn't make you any better. You're doing it because you love it, not because you're trying to get better.
Is that chart going to look better health-wise if that blue level was smaller or short less? Or not?
Usually no. It depends. For my female clientele, if they balance their life, women are much more mature and sophisticated to do that. They can balance their work life much better than my guys can. They can drop this level and spend more time with family. They feel great. If my guys drop that level, they feel terrible because they lose their purpose. So it depends. And that's a male-female divide traditionally, but that's stereotypical, but we see that across the board. The pros figured it out a long time ago. So 2016, 2017 era, Tom Brady and his coach figured out, you guys don't have to get the book. The book isn't really that good. It's a lot of pictures of Tom Brady without a shirt on. So regardless of what you think of Tom Brady, maybe that is a preference for you. His coach says something in that book that was very, very eye-opening to me. This is 2016, 2017. I was coming out of all my surgeries trying to find a different way to do things myself for my clients. Alex Guerrero is the coach, and he said, look, if my guy Tom Brady, because if your guy is Tom Brady, you don't need another client. You coach one guy. If he goes out every Sunday and gets the crap beat out of him on the field, why would I bring him into the gym and beat the crap out of him even more? He's not going to be able to play into his 40s like he wants to. I'm going to speed his injury, minimize his recovery. I'm going to be a bad coach. So then Brady starts playing so well into his 40s, injury-free, top of the game, and other athletes start adopting the same coaching mechanisms and nutrition so that they can do the same thing, so much so that some of them can still play that many minutes with that much impact into their 40s. Robert Parrish was never doing that. We never saw this before. So this is key, and they're not all doing it. You can tell who's injured and who's not. So we knew that was our affirmation. We knew that if it's working for the pros, I can get buy-in, especially from my male clientele, that that's the right way to go. And the next big step was to realize I cannot coach my men the way I coach my women. Women are not small men. They are very different. This is not an equality issue. This is just a biochemical science, biomechanics issue. If I apply the same loads to her at the same time with the same feeding schedule, she's going to have the opposite outcome that her male counterpart would have at any age. So Stacey Sims is really the culmination of a lot of this research coming out of New Zealand. She's written a couple of books stating, one, if you're coaching a young woman, pro athlete or not, you cannot coach her like a man. And if you're coaching a woman who's in peri and post-menopause, she can't even train like a young woman trains. So my women have to be trained very differently over the scope of their career. I might see someone 25, 30 years. I'm going to see her through several transitions. Whereas my guys may have way fewer transitions than that. I can't coach those two clients the same. This is the reason why my female clients, by the time they see me, they're at 700% risk, increased risk of an ACL rupture by the time they're 25 and out of school. My men are not. Because these girls get male coaching, male equipment, male volume, male nutrition, and it's just not the right protocol for them. So hopefully we get this fixed for her before she gets into perimenopause and things really fall apart. Because I don't know the last time any of you looked at the average female 28-day hormone cycle, right? Fascinating. It's not simple. And these are only 4 of the hormones that we're tracking here that she has in her body. She's got 50 in her entire system, and they're all doing this. And this is before perimenopause. In perimenopause, this goes into 6 dimensions. And in menopause, it goes completely flat. So I cannot coach her the same workout here where her androgens and her hormones are peaking. Up here, she'll run through a wall for me. But down here, when she's ovulating or God forbid menstruating, totally different workout. So I've got to periodize that accordingly, and not just through her cycle if she's young enough, but through the stages of her life as her system changes. You can't coach her like a 22-year-old guy. Bad outcome. To just compare it for the sake of it, what's the average 28-day male hormone cycle look like? It's slightly less complicated. Yeah, my guys have diurnal fluctuations morning to night, but for all intents and purposes, they keep a steady baseline.
So do you coach, so like for somebody who wants to understand this a little bit more, do you coach to like what that longevity looks like of like the appropriate workouts in which cycles to like not to
Yeah, I don't have to
that
track,
early on?
right? I don't have to track her cycle, but she knows where she is. A lot of my girls come in, they've got an app, they know exactly. I can just ask loaded questions like, how do you feel? How did you sleep? I really don't feel good. I think I'm luteal. I'd rather I'm bloated. Like, okay, I know her hormones this or that, and I can change my craft or my workout for her immediately. And if I'm programming it, I program it based on that. Or if she's in menopause, she's flat, I try to get her on HRT, bring her back up. The key is, it's pretty obvious I can't train those two people the same. If you do, you're a terrible coach. You're just breaking girls down. That's another way to look at it. Her hormones will peak in her late 30s. That's when she's like optimal hormone. Usually by that point, she's had her kids, but not always. I've had women all the way into the late 40s having children, which skews this entire metric. But the key I have as a coach is to get her with an endocrinologist, get her the HRT support she needs as soon as possible, because her administering exogenous hormones as soon as she can is going to be the number one way for her to reduce her risk of cancer, heart disease, stroke, and Alzheimer's. Not to mention joint injury, muscle loss, bone density loss, and everything. So the game has changed from 2002 when we thought that hormones for women were bad and we kept giving them to men. Well, now the girls realize, hey, we're in the game too. That's the best thing we can really do for them. There's a lot of doctors haven't caught up yet. My men give me a whole different runway, right? He will peak in his early 20s, and then he starts a steady decline, but it takes a long, long time. So I can intervene with proper testosterone management at any point in here. But if this guy in his 50s, his body changes, he wants that guy's body back, he starts doing that workout, he doesn't have the testosterone to recover from it, so he breaks. And that's what we see. These guys come in with a spinal fusion, knee replacement, hip resurfacing. Then we get them on proper testosterone therapy and show them how to work out intelligently, not like a dumb 20-year-old. So that's the shift.
So once you start the testosterone treatments, you're substituting for the body's production.
Correct. You either have to cycle, you got to cycle on and off with different drugs to get your testes back online, or you try to push off and wait, or you ruin if you start early enough, you ruin your fertility, you get hypogonadism, you have all kinds of other side effects. We see a litany of young men coming into our clinic now in this age bracket, 25, 26, that are overworked, overtrained, under-recovered, type A driven, successful businessmen, low testosterone. Their testosterone's low not because they have a gonadal problem that they need to treat with medication, but because they're overtraining. So if I can show them how to train intelligently, just like I would train this guy, the outcome is completely different. So my job as a coach, whether they're on TRT or not, is to show them how to manage healthy TRT levels, which I can easily do through feeding and exercise, whether they're taking it or not. Because if you take as much testosterone as you want and want to pay for, that's not going to fix your outcome long term. It'll bring your levels up. You'll feel better short term, but all your risk factors go up. You still run more risk of injury. You're not recovering well, and your outcome's still negative. Yeah, Ed?
Grandfather speaking. I have a 14-year-old grandson who is on his way to be a Major League Baseball player in his mind's eye and his dad's eye. And he'd be involved in baseball 12 months out of the year, that he is going to have problems.
I promise you, every kid who plays a year-round sport is at risk. And that's why we see by the time they're in their 20s, they've been so overtrained, they don't cross-train anymore. We used to play, it was football season, then it was baseball season, you had a break, then you had basketball. Coaches would bicker at each other because you weren't at one practice and you were late to the other. But now, you got to decide. By elementary school, you got to decide what you're going to play. You play it year-round. And that's why we see these androgens, these hormones in kids. Sometimes they're so burned out, they don't want to exercise by the time they're in their 20s. But if you were to age and add plenty of testosterone and still not take care of your body and not eat well and not train correctly, that's what you get. It's not longevity. You're dead at 71. You still got problems, right? It still doesn't fix it. Okay, so we're coming back after the break. We're going to learn how to fix it. We've been going for a while. Let's take a little break. Everybody hit the head, get some coffee, and then we'll reconvene.
These are the access to the restrooms.
Okay, thank you.
We always
Yeah,
have a
absolutely.
recap too, so
Yeah, thanks. And I think you'll get an email, so if you wouldn't mind evaluating, that's how they determine whether I'm worth the shit or not. So I appreciate it. Thank you.